Hey, Period 7, this is Mr. Haller. I'm recording this screencast, and in order for you to follow along, you should have your P7 discounter program open in Visual Studio. This was the program that we are working on Tuesday. If for some reason you're not able to open your program, then what I would like you to do is to move over to a nearby classmates screen, and you can watch this on your classmates screen. You will likely have to play the audio out loud, but that way you'll still be able to follow along. So at this point you should have Visual Studio open with your P7 discounter program open. That's the program that looks like this on the screen. If you're unable to do that, please find a neighbor who you can work with for today until Mr. Haller returns. And please come in for AIM support, and we'll see if we can't get your problem resolved. So, just as a quick review, we've got our discounter program open. Our program has two numeric up-downs. We have the NUD original, we have our NUD discount, and we have our text box, which is TXT final, along with our three buttons: calculate, reset, and close. If I go over to our code, I can see the comments that we had put in, including our test data, because remember, test data is important when you're developing a program. You want to be able to test your program to make sure it's right. And then we triggered our 3 button events last Tuesday. We created the calculate button click event by double-clicking the calculate button on our form. We have the BTN reset button click event, and we have our close button event. So we triggered those all by double clicking on each of the buttons. Now, if by some chance you had double clicked something else like the form by accident, and you have other events in your program, you can just select and delete them. It's important when you delete them, though, you remember you need public class form 1 at the top, and you need end class at the bottom. Do not delete those lines of code, or your program will not work. Okay, so I've got these 3 events, and then on Tuesday we talked about how within the event we could actually provide the name of a control, in this case NUD original. Now, as a reminder, NUD original applies to, I'm just going to turn on my properties window here for a second. NUD original applies to this control here. If I click on this control and I look over at my name property, here's my name property, NUD original, and I see it also up here. So that's the name of this control. So in my code, when I say NUD original, I'm addressing or talking specifically about that control. So I'm saying in my code, hey code, this NUD original control, I want you to look at the value property. When we put dot value, the dot separates the name of the control from the property we want to deal with. So in this case, the property we're going to deal with is the value property. Remember, NUD original has all these various properties, many that we haven't even talked about, but one of them that we did talk about down here is the value property, which controls the number that appears in the display. So what I'm saying here is, hey code, let's go to the NUD original control to its value property, and we're going to assign to it, that's what this equal sign means, we're going to assign to it or make it equal to the number that's on the right, in this case 100. So the way the program reads this is assign 100 to the value property of NUD original. So when the program is running and the person goes and clicks the reset button when the program's running, the code's going to jump to this event, right? Because we have event-driven programs that respond to things that happen, one of those being the reset button being clicked. When that happens, it's going to come here and it's going to say, hey, NUD original control, change your value property to 100. Whatever it is, throw that old value away and replace it with 100. So that will get changed. Then it's going to go down to the next line of code, which says, hey, go to my NUD discount control, which is this one. Whoops, I accidentally pressed it more than I meant to, so it created another event, so I'm just going to delete that. I'm going to go back. What I meant to do is just click here and show you this control, NUD discount. Okay, so NUD discount, the value property, I'm going to assign it to 0. So it's going to put a 0 there. And then my next control is my txt final. So txt final is going to get set its text property, because remember, in a text box, it's the text property. It's not the value property. It's only the value property with the numeric up down. In a text box, it's the text property that controls what displays inside here. So down here, if I look down, my text property right now is empty, which is what I want it to be when I reset. The way I create an empty space in a text box is basically to put 2 double quotes, and we'll figure out why that is more in the future. But just for the time being, you should have 2 double quotes there. And notice when you put the double quotes, the screen turns red to indicate something, and we'll get to that as we move on. So that's really what I want my reset button event to do, is to switch all of those things and go there. Now there's one additional thing I could do. So I'm going to put my cursor here, and I want you to put your cursor there at the end of txt final.txt. I'm going to hit the enter key, and when I reset my program, I want the program to put it, I want it to be as if the user had clicked on this control with their mouse to bring what's called the focus to the control. So in other words, the cursor would be there and awaiting the user to type something on that control. So that's called focus. So what I'm going to do down here is, what's the control I'm looking for focus on? Well, it's NUD original. So I could choose it from the list here, or I could just type it. So I'm going to go NUD original dot focus, and I'm just going to select this one from the list. Now I'm going to hit my enter key. Now in this case, focus is not a property. Okay, so focus is not a property that exists over here. If I look over here in the F's and properties, I don't see it. Focus is something else, and we're going to talk, focus is what's called a method of a control, and we'll talk more about what that is later. But you'll notice it's got the 2 parentheses there. So right now, all I want you to think about is, if you put the word focus after a control name, you know, with the dot, what will happen in your code is, when the program's running, it will bring, it's as if the user clicked their mouse to select that control. That's what focus is. Okay, so my reset button is done. That's what I want it to do. I'm going to click my Save All button, click my Start button. Now if you're getting errors at this point, it's likely that you didn't name your controls the same thing that I named my controls. And whoops, I can help you fix that when I return, or if you come in for AIM support. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just change these values a little bit, and I'm going to make this something. And now I'm going to hit my reset button. So notice right now my cursor is here next to the 4 in discount. I click reset. So this became 100, this became 0, this is still blank, but also notice my cursor's up there, because it reset this to 100, reset this to 0, put the cursor up there because that's what the focus command did. So we actually issued commands in our program. Our program's code caused this screen to change. And that's really how programs work. And that's how code changes the things that users see. It's typically through, no matter what programming language you're using, it's through assignment statements like we see here. Okay, so I'm going to close my program now by clicking the X button here in the corner. Okay, I'm going to go back to my code. Now, the calculate event is a little more complicated, because the calculate event, what we actually have to do is we got to do some math, and we're going to basically implement the algorithm that we discussed up here. So remember the other day we talked about the algorithm for finding the original price? we said ultimately you're going to take your original price and you're going to subtract the discount amount. Well, the discount amount you came up with by taking your discount percent, divide it by 100, and multiply it by the original price. That gives you your discount amount, which you subtract from your original price to get your final price. So what we need to do is implement this so that our program knows what it's going to do. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take each of these things and we're going to turn it into code. So I'm going to come down here to my BTN calculate click event, and I'm going to go final price. Now I know my final price is this control, my txt final text box. So I'm going to go, okay, txt final, that's my text box where I want my answer to display, my final price, dot, and notice it defaults me to text. That is the property I want, by the way, so I'm just going to double click that. txt final.text. Now remember, the text property is what controls what displays in this box. Ultimately, the answer we're going to display is going to go into the text property, so we're going to use the text property. So I'm going to assign that to, now I got to use my original price, so I know that's my NUD original. Now where is the number in NUD original? Well, that's in the value property. So NUD original.value. So go get the value property of NUD original. Okay. And what am I going to do with that? I'm going to go minus, and I'm going to use a parentheses. Okay. Now my discount percent is in my NUD discount control. So I'm going to go NUD discount. But I have to ask myself, where is the number? Well, it's in the value property. NUD discount.value. That contains the number that represents my discount here. So I got NUD discount.value. I'm going to divide that by 100 in programming. The slash, that slash, make sure you have the right slash. That is the forward slash. Make sure you have that slash selected. So take that, and then I'm going to go times is the star key. I'm going to close my properties window here for a second. Times my original price. So that's my NUD original dot value, because that's where the number is stored. Okay. And if I hit enter, now as long as I don't see any blue squiggly lines, if I see some blue squiggly lines, it's likely I mistyped a name somewhere. Okay, but I don't see any blue squiggly lines, so the computer seems to like that. So I've taken my algorithm up here and I've turned it into code. Now I'm going to hit my Save All button, and I'm going to save this discussion and continue it in a second recording, because I'm limited to 15 minutes on these recordings and I'm coming up on time. So I'm going to pause this and you will go on to part 2.